everyone, it's Justine and welcome to my new video, Concord 9th's new and improved Turnabout Stamps kit reveal and the entire January release full of inspiration and over 10 cards. Gone are the days where you had to line up your stamps on these alignment guides and go ahead and go with your ruler and draw in lines with a permanent marker. And then if you didn't get the lines perfect, your Turnabout stamp would never align properly, and that was definitely an issue for a lot of people. Now, Concord 9th have solved that problem in two ways. So I'm going to show you the Turnabout Tool KIT, which is a new kit available from Concord 9th. I'm so excited about this kit and I'm going to show you what's in it. I'm also going to show you the entire January release today because it's all Turnabout stamps because they're celebrating how easy this is. So you get this adorable little kit that opens up, and then all of the goodies are here in this little envelope pouch, which is super cute and fun. So what is inside is you have here everything you need to Turnabout, if that makes sense. So it comes with removable adhesive because you need to be able to attach your cardstock to your template as was before. You have an adhesive remover so that you can remove that non-permanent tape that you just saw. The Turnabout Jig, which I'm going to go into more detail about. And it also comes with a really wonderful Turnabout stamp and die here that is available and works with the original Misti as well as the mini Misti, which is really great for those that only have a mini Misti. As well as 4 cards and envelopes so that you can make your cards, of course. So let's get started. I'm going to talk about the jig a little bit here. Now the jig has perforated lines on it. You can see here it's kind of like a vellum material. It's a see-through transparent material. And it has the X already in place. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the corners so that you know exactly where it needs to go. And it has these perforated areas here so that you can put down a vertical card panel or a horizontal card panel and have it line up perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the second thing that makes it so easy. It's this transparency sheet. Now, the transparency sheet is really exciting because all the new Turnabout stamps are going to include one of these transparency sheets that make it so easy to line up. You'll see that it has this side up here, as well as the center point mark, and all you need to do is place it stamp side down. So the textured part of the stamp is going face down, the smooth part is going up. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, that's great, but I have a bunch of Turnabout stamps before, and I would like to have these transparency sheets for them, Concord 9th is selling a pack of all previous Turnabout stamps so that you can get all of those transparency sheets in one package. Whether you have the stamp or not doesn't really matter, in case you want to get more in the future. So that's super exciting. So you're just going to go ahead and line it up as best as you can on here. And the best part is when you're doing this, the lines are already there for you. There's no more ruler and marker to mark your lines. So if you mess up and it doesn't line up properly, you didn't just ruin your stamp. And I had done that before with the stamp and that really upset me. So that was really great that this improvement is here. So now you're going to grab your stamping tool, whether you're using the mini Misti or the Misti. I have each stamp from January labeled, whether it works with the mini or the original or both. And you're going to put that in your stamping platform or your Misti here. Flush to the corner, as always, and the 1 is going to be up in the top right corner. This will help you keep track of how many times you need to turn it. So now what you could do, I'm going to put this white sheet here because it helps me be able to see, but I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for lining up the X as well. So if you turn over, I use the mouse pad on my Misti. If you turn it over to the black foam part, the X is a lot easier to see. Also, if you notice, your X is going to line up perfectly with your grid if you use the grid side, so you'll be able to see exactly which grid intersection to line up your stamp with. So that was the first time I had stamped with it, and that's what I've noticed going along the way, and I'll show you that later. So I'm going to remove the transparency sheet now since my jig is already good to go. I'm going to replace my jig here in the corner since it kind of got shuffled in the process. And I am going to now go ahead and add my cardstock to my jig. So what I need to do is grab a panel, or you can grab a card base. It's completely up to you. I'm going to stamp directly on the card base since this is what the kit comes with. And I am going to just fold it here. You're going to place some of that removable adhesive onto the back of the card base. So just make sure it's on the right side. And I am just going to add a couple of lines here. And since I have a new stamp here, I know it's going to be a bit sticky, so I am going to add a third one just in case. I'm going to stick it down. Now, as I said, those perforated little right angles help you line everything up, so you're going to get a perfect alignment each time. So you don't have to worry about lining it up straight on your jig. So that's really exciting. And of course, you're going to know which way your jig goes because the numbers would be upside or backwards if you had it the wrong way, and so would the letters. If your card base pops up, just use some of that removable adhesive to place your cardstock down. So that's essentially how the jig and the transparency sheets are now improving the Turnabout stamp method. Now, if you've never seen the Turnabout stamp in action, I am going to show you how each one of the new release stamps, plus this one in the kit, stamp out. I'm going to be using Samba, Lime Rickey, Tiki Torch, and Fiesta Blue from Catherine Pooler Inks to stamp these 4 rotations. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my first color, which is Tiki Torch, and then I'm going to stamp it onto my card base just as I would a normal stamp. You can see once again that I have that 1 on the jig in the top right corner, so I know that I need to place my first color. I'm going to stamp down, and remember with the Misti, if you ever do not get a good impression, you can just go ahead, place your jig back in the corner, and restamp that image. But I never really have to worry about that with Catherine Pooler Inks. I'm going to rotate it clockwise so that the 2 is in the top right corner. If you were to have rotated it counterclockwise, it wouldn't have made a difference either, except for that your numbers would have been out of order. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my second color now, which is the Lime Rickey. And then I'm going to go do the same thing again. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees to the right, clockwise turn. I'm going to add my third color. Now, just a brief little thing about my inks here. If you've noticed, I haven't cleaned my stamp. Now, I find with Catherine Pooler's Party Collection, the inks do not contaminate. So I can go from yellow to green to blue without any issues of contaminating my colors. One of the reasons why I love these inks so much. But I do recommend giving them just a quick wipe in between, just in case. And I'll do that with the rest of the designs for my card. I'm going in with that last color, which is Samba, and then I'm going to stamp that final piece down, and now you'll see that I have this beautiful cluster. Now, all of these smaller size Turnabout stamps do work with the original Misti as well as the mini Misti. Now my card is finished and I can embellish it in any way that I like. I'm just going to go ahead now and I'm going to remove the cardstock that I had just stamped on. And if you're using a larger Turnabout stamp, be sure that your jig is clean if you're going to place your cardstock down on top of your Misti like I'm going to do. And then you're going to grab that Adhesive Remover. If you don't have one of these, even if you're not interested in a Turnabout stamp, this is an excellent little tool, and they're only about $2 or $3. And they're definitely a lifesaver in case you get glue somewhere you don't want it. And you're just going to rub the glue off, and you'll see it comes off almost like a lottery ticket where you get those little scratches of kind of like little specks of eraser bits. That's what comes off. And it's easy to just brush off your card after. Now you just simply stamped the congrats stamp on there, and now the card is finished. This one here is also from the January release, and it comes with the $60 purchase. It comes free. It's the Spirograph Turnabout stamp. And I also wanted to mention that this one is also mini Misti compatible, and there's also a mini Misti jig that is available through Concord 9th because this regular jig will not fit in the mini Misti. It's too big. So just keep that in mind. If you only have a mini Misti, you'll have to buy the mini jig. I'm going to go ahead and stamp all 4 of these colors now so you see what the free stamp looks like. It's so cute and I love how clean and simple the design is. Now for the remainder, I'm obviously not going to show you how I set up the Turnabout stamps because you already know how it goes. But I am going to give you a couple of tips and tricks along the way that I learned. And I'm going to stamp each one of them out and show you a final card so that you're able to see all the inspiration for the new release and have some ideas for when you go ahead and make them yourself. I added a simple thanks die from a previous release to this card. The next one here is the Hello Sunshine Turnabout stamp. This one also comes with a Turnabout die if you'd like to get the die set, and I'll have a video on how the dies work at a later date. Now, I'm going to show you here when I line up my stamp, and remember it's the stamp side that goes down. Now when I put in my jig, I'll see there that this is the center point. It lines up with my grid perfectly, which means that this is even more genius than I thought it was. Then I just need to line up my center where those grid lines cross, and I just need to adjust so that each part of the X of the jig as well as the transparency sheet line up. Don't forget to remove that transparency sheet now, and then I'm going to go ahead and get stamping. So whether or not you invest in the Turnabout kit, the jigs themselves, or some of the Turnabout stamps for January, I now think that this stamp is very user-friendly, even for beginner stampers. Now, why do these stamps exist? Well, simply because if you had these as just plain single stamps, they would be really, really difficult to get all these different colors. So it's a way to add backgrounds to your cardstock and get multiple colors without extensive masking. That's what Turnabout stamps are, and they are super genius. So here is a final bit here. I added the Sending a Bit of Sunshine stamp that comes with it, as well as the die. This one here is the To the Point Turnabout. It's a little bit cactus themed, and it fits the original Misti only because it is a 6x6 stamp, so it does fit a larger size sheet of paper as well. Now this one here is a little bit different because it needs a perfect alignment, because the flowers need to fit into the pots perfectly, or the succulents. And this is a really fun one because it comes with that coordinating die that looks like a cactus, as well as a really fun sentiment, and it comes with really adorable sentiments as well on the stamp. And everyone knows that succulents are just super trendy and in at the moment, so this is kind of fun. And it also has a little circle in the middle, which is pretty perfect for adding a sentiment, even though I decided to add a little die cut in there. This one here is the marbled Turnabout stamp set. It doesn't come with a coordinating die, but creates a really fun marbled look, or it creates, in my opinion, it looks like that shaving cream technique that you can do with cards, and that is a really cool look as well. So I'm going ahead once again stamping all the colors, and you'll see how perfectly these ones line up and how all the lines just work with each other. I can't imagine the graphic design process that goes into making these stamps and how much thought has to go into them. So I embellished this with a previous die as well, which is one of my favorites, the Hello die set. And I'm moving on to the next card, which is a Birthday Basics Turnabout stamp. This one here is also a larger one that fits the original Misti only. Also comes with some really pretty coordinating stamps that are perfect for birthdays. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp this one out for you, and then you'll see the end result. This one is just perfect, I think, for kids and really fun birthday background. And remember, you don't have to stamp all 4 colors. You can go ahead and leave it as just 2 colors or 3 and not have it as busy if that's more your style. Now the next Turnabout stamp here is a little bit different in that it is a double Turnabout stamp, meaning it has a small one in the center, which would work with the mini Misti, and it has a large one for a background. So it creates both a cluster and a background, and I'm going to show you what each one of those look like here. So in my opinion, the clusters are really great for clean and simple cards. Just simply stamp and then add a die cut or a sentiment on top. And the backgrounds are perfect for cards that are a little bit more busy and intricate. This one here needs to be as well quite exact because it stamps a circle in the center that is perfect for adding a sentiment. Now don't worry, because remember, they're so much easier to get exact. Out of the 10 cards that I made, only one of mine did I actually need to readjust in the end. So here's what both of these look like when I stamped the happy birthday on top of them. Now, what to do if you accidentally align them incorrectly. So you'll see here that when I was doing this and I filmed the blooper, I stamped this and I forgot to put the X in the middle of my jig. Because it's a 6x6 stamp, when I mounted it on top of the transparency sheet, it was easy to just put it on top of the jig and then just go from there. And what I forgot to do was align that center point. So if you do that, remember before when you had to put the permanent lines on it, then the stamp probably wouldn't work out for you in the future unless you would just ignore those lines somehow and try and line it up. Now what's so great is that all you need to do is just put it onto the transparency sheet again and then just remount it on the Misti. So it's really just super easy. Now the last thing I wanted to show you for the January release is this really fun stencil. There is the full background as well as a cluster that you can go ahead and stencil onto a card, and several sentiments if you'd like to add those. Now I'm going to show you how they work. You don't need a jig and you don't need an original stamping tool at all. All you need to do is line it up in the corner of your cardstock. So you can see that the 90-degree corner there on the bottom left-hand side is all lined up, and I'm just adding my first color onto my stencil. I have a piece of purple tape over my fingers as well to protect them from getting too inky. You do need to wash your stencil or wipe it down in between though, of course. So I like to keep it in the same direction as I had it before, wipe down the stencil with a cloth, and then I like to just re-add it. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn my stencil once again, and I am going to place the tape down so that it stays all in place, and I'm going to go ahead and add my second color. So I'm now going to speed you up here just for time purposes as I'm adding all the colors. I am adding the ink here using a blending tool from Ranger, and I'm using the same inks as I used for my stamping, the Catherine Pooler inks. They blend really nicely, just as good as Distress inks in my opinion, so these are really fun to use. And I ended up just going into a really harsh method of just really pushing the ink into the paper, and that worked out really well for me. So I went ahead and stamped that last color, or added the ink for that last color here, and you'll see it also leaves some white in there, which I think looks really nice as well because it lightens up the background, makes it a little less busy. So this is what it looks like, the background when it's all finished, and the second picture is going to show you what the cluster looks like when that one's all finished. So really, really, really pretty. I love the way that it turned out. So here is a final recap of all the cards that I created using the January release. I hope you're inspired by the Turnabout stamps, and I'm really hoping everyone gives that jig and these new transparency sheets a try. Remember, those transparency sheets are available on the website for all previous Turnabout stamps that you may have purchased in the past. And they just make them super easy and, in my opinion, extremely enjoyable now to stamp with. I can't wait to stamp all the time using my Turnabout stamps now that I don't have to worry about aligning too much. Thanks so much for watching my video, everyone. If you're interested in checking out other videos, I'll put the suggestion below. And I also have the subscribe button there if you'd like to subscribe to my channel. Bye now.